You've got your Cubico. You are looking at that 85 by 85 millimeter piece of wood, and you'd like to engrave something just to see that it works. We're going to do that using the free open source FreeCAD software. Here's how. Before we get started, let's talk about setup. You can see in this video here the V bit is already at the starting position, and we've set the work coordinates to 0, 0, 0. That means X is 0, Y is 0, and the Z is 0. And as we carve into the workpiece, our Z is going to go negative. But there are some things that we need to cover first before you even get to this point and we start setting up our FreeCAD carving job. So before you do anything, it's absolutely imperative you must make sure your firmware is updated. And there are three firmwares on the Cubico CNC. There's the Wi-Fi module firmware. You probably had to update that just to get connected. And then there is the control panel firmware. That gets updated via the micro SD in the control panel slot. And finally, there is the main board firmware, which has to be updated by the micro SD in the update interface slot. So let's get back to our setup. You need to put the 20-degree V-bit in the chuck. It's one of the bits that should come with the machine. You want to have the alligator clip set up with the alligator clip attached to the spindle. And then you want to run the calibration Z probe. And then you're going to move the X and Y axis to the left front corner. And then carefully move the Z axis down so the bit is just hovering slightly above the surface of the material. You can see, slip a piece of paper in between the tip and the material, and that's about as close as you want to get. So you should have your PC connected via a USB cable that is provided with the unit. Let's go to Candle. Click on the 0xy. When you do that, you should see that the work coordinates now change to 0 for X and 0 for Y. Now we just need to 0Z, so we're going to click on the 0Z icon, and we should now see that the Z work coordinate changes to 0. So now all three, X, Y, and Z, show up as 0. We're now ready to start. Let's move on to FreeCAD. So now we have started FreeCAD. I'm running FreeCAD 101. By the time you see this, the newer version, FreeCAD 1.1, should be out. This is the release version. It's available for Windows, Linux, and Mac. So when we start out, the first thing we want to do is check our preferences. Go to Edit, Preferences, and in the General section, make sure that the default unit system is set to metric small parts in CNC, which uses millimeters and millimeters per minute. If you just have it set to the engineering default of using metric, that's not sufficient. You need this because it's the millimeters per minute that are important. So just click OK to save your settings. Select File, New, and FreeCAD has several workbenches. We're going to switch between a few of them. To start with, switch to the Sketcher. So go to the drop down here, select Sketcher. Okay, and now we want to select the Create Sketch icon. That's this icon here. And we're going to select the sketch orientation as it is already default, XY plane. So that's going to be a top-down view. Click OK. And now we are in the Sketcher Edit view. So we're going to create a rectangle. So we select the rectangle tool. It's going to start from the bottom left corner. So we're going to click on the origin. And we're going to make this rectangle 85 by 85. So you notice as I start moving, it puts me in this little white box here. And I'm just going to type 85. And I'm going to press Tab to go to the other one. And I'm going to type 85 and hit Enter. And voila, I have created a 85 by 85 millimeter rectangle. Now close. So we now have a sketch, which is our material guide. That's going to show us, that's just showing us in FreeCAD what's the size of the material. It's always very helpful to have a reference because you can zoom way in and you can zoom way out, and it's very helpful to be able to see what's the size of the physical material that you're dealing with. So now we're going to create our actual engraving text. First, we're going to switch to the draft workbench. The draft workbench has a whole array of tools associated with it. There's only one that we're actually interested in, and that is Shape from Text. So I'm going to select Shape from Text. Now there's a dialog that appears down here. It wants an origin point. You need to click where you want the lower left corner of the text to start on the workpiece. You might use something like x equals 4, y equals 5. We're going to use 10 and 10. So you notice the grid is aligned in millimeters. I'm going to click here to set this. Now we want to enter something for the text. So let's just enter ahoy. It's also going to let you set the height. The height defaults to 10 millimeters. That's actually going to be okay. The height does not include descenders, letters like P, Q, G, Y. So that's 10 millimeters is a good default. Now one thing that's just a little annoying is that it wants a font file. You don't get the regular system dialog. So click on the three dots next to font file, and it's going to give you a dialog. There is a file verabd.ttf that comes with this tutorial, and that is a free TrueType font for the Vera Bitstream Bold. And we're going to select that. So now we have a font. It's very important. You must select a font. If you need to, or if you just don't feel like downloading that, you can go to, usually on a Windows system, it'll be CE Windows Fonts, and you can select one of the TTF files from there. All right. So then we can go ahead and click OK when we're done. And now we see the object. There's our ahoy. So you can compare your text to the sketch. Look, you see that's in the 85 by 85? Yes, it is. So everything's good. Keep in mind also, in this tutorial, we're going to show you how to create a little rounded box around the text as well. So leave some space for that. All right, so you'll notice that here is the origin, the lower left of ahoy. You notice that this descender, the Y, goes down a little bit below that line. So now we're good. Let's rename this just to make it a bit easier. We're going to click on Shape String in the tree view. We use the tree view a lot. and we're going to press the F2 button. That puts us in rename mode, and we'll just call it Ahoy. And there we go. So that will make it just a little bit easier to keep track. So now we're going to do that optional box around the text that I mentioned. This is an optional step. If you want to skip this entire step, you can jump ahead to where we start creating our CNC job. The first thing we want to do is select the Sketcher workbench. So we go back to the Sketcher workbench. We want to make sure that the shape string we just created isn't selected. You'll notice that this is highlighted in green. That means that it has been selected. All we have to do is click anywhere outside that, just in the free space in our workbench, and you'll notice that it's no longer green and it's also not selected here in the tree view. So now we're going to the toolbar and we're going to use the Create Sketch icon. We're going to select the sketch orientation as the XY plane. It's always going to be the XY plane for doing CNC and laser engraving stuff. And now we are back in the sketch editor. So we're going to select the rectangle tool, and let's zoom in a little bit. I'm using the middle mouse button to click and drag just to pan around a little bit, and I'm using the mouse wheel to zoom in. And I want to start at the lower left corner, and I'm going to go up here to enclose my text and kind of center it. And when I reach the place I want, I click again, and now I have this. If I want to adjust the size of the rectangle, then I just hit escape, because right now you can see this little icon. It means if I click again, I'm going to be creating another rectangle, and I don't want to do that. Or maybe you do want to do that. Maybe you want a double rectangle, but in any case, let's keep it simple. Click escape. Now we are in the regular. I can just grab one of these, I can drag it, I can move it around. You'll notice that I have a grid snap on. Grid snap is pretty handy. If you don't like that, just zoom in a little bit, and as the grid gets finer, you have more options to avoid snapping. Okay, so once you're happy with this, let's make rounded corners. If you don't want rounded corners, just skip this part. There is a Create Fillet option. We're going to click on that. Now the cursor changes to this thing. All that we have to do is click on the corners 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice that there are additional handles created. It can make it a little tricky if you want to do any additional resizing. That's why we did the resizing first. Okay, now let's click close, and we're going to finish. And now you can see here is the text, and we have the Ahoy. Now it's called Sketch 001, which is not that helpful. We click on this in the tree view. Let's press F2 and let's rename it to text box. There you go. So we now have Ahoy and text box. And we're ready to move on to creating a CNC job. To create our CNC job, we need to switch to the CAM workbench. That is just another workbench. So we're going to select CAM, and now we see our object here, but all of these icons are grayed out. So I should mention a little bit about the whole CAM job. It's basically one of the big differences between the CNC world and the laser engraving and 3D printing world. You set up a job, you have tools, you have the material, you have your starting position. It's very complicated. We're going to try to cut through all that and just show you, how to get to the point of I want to be able to engrave this. So the first thing we have to do is we click on the job icon. So we already have the text box selected, but we don't have Ahoy selected. So we're going to make sure that Ahoy is selected. These are the objects that are going to go into our CAM job. So you've got all those in there. Now click OK. We've got Ahoy and text box. And now you can see that it has created this job. And there's a big dialog down here called Job Edit. So the first thing that we need to do is decide what is our bounding box. What we want is to have this be the same as our work. So we're going to just change this. Click here, change that to 0, tab, 0, tab, 0, tab, 0, tab, 0, tab, 0. Okay, don't close the dialog yet. There's more to do. Now you can see the bounding box. You can also see it's showing you the assumed starting tool position. We always start the tool at 0, 0. It's usually bottom left coordinates. Okay, so we are initially in the Setup tab. Now we're going to go to the Output tab. We want to select an output file name. So we're going to go here, click on the three buttons, and we'll call it, the Cubico Engrave Ahoy, or whatever we want it to be. NC is typically a good extension for G-code files. Okay, so we've got an output file name. We also need to select the processor. So we're going to change the processor to Gerbil. Gerbil is the firmware that's running on the device. There's options to put other arguments in there. We're just going to go with the defaults. Now we're going to go to the Tools tab. And we're almost done here. We're going to click on TC Default Tool, and then we're going to click Edit to bring up the Tool Controller Editor. Yep, remember I said this is CNC world and it's a little bit different. So what we want to do is we're going to enter the horizontal feed, and we're going to use 800. The feed rate is how fast it moves while cutting. Okay, vertical feed rate, how fast it moves up and down while cutting. So we're going to use 800 millimeters per minute for the horizontal feed rate, and we're going to use 50 millimeters per minute for the vertical. Okay. And for the spindle, we're going to use 6,000 RPM. And finally, we click OK to close the Tool Controller Editor. And now we can click OK to close the job edit. We can always go back and edit the job by highlighting, and you can do a right-click edit. But we don't need to do that right now. So now we have a job with an operations subfolder and other subfolders, but this isn't going to do anything yet. we still have to add operations. So we've created our job. Let's add an operation. We're going to use the engrave operation. It basically creates an engraving toolpath. It says it does it around a draft shape string, but it will also take the sketches we've added as well. And you could have added multiple sketches. It's going to do all of them, and it's going to do them all the same way. So let's click on the engrave icon, and now we get a dialog here. So what we want to do is we want to go to depths, the depths page, and we want to enter the start depth. So we click on this little blue icon and change that expression to 0. And we want to change the final depth. We're going to go down to a depth of -1. So we're going to make the final depth -1. And the default units is millimeters, of course. The other very important parameter is the step down. How far does the z-axis move on every step? So it's going to do multiple passes. We're going to play it really safe and enter the step down as 0.2. That means that it's going to take 5 passes, and each time it's going to go down 0.2 millimeters. That's basically all that we needed to add in this operation. So we're going to click OK, and that closes the engrave operations dialog. Now you can see that there are some paths shown in red. This is actually showing the path that the tool head is going to take as it goes through, and it does these different operations. So what if we wanted to actually see what's going to happen? You can do that without starting the machine or anything. And by the way, we can now see our engrave operation under operations in our job. So let's do simulation. So we've already got the job selected in the tree view. And from the app menu, we can go to CAM Simulator. So this is very handy. This is showing us the starting tool position. We can just go ahead and click play, and it's going to take us through all the stuff the tool head does. You can see it engraving the letter A, and now it's doing the letter H. You'll notice that it's doing multiple passes because every time it's going down an extra 0.2 millimeters. You can't really see that here, but that's what's going on. You actually can see it if you change the perspective a little bit. You can see that there are multiple passes that are going down. So this is just a handy way to check your work and make sure that everything's going according to plan. It's not doing anything crazy like going outside where you expected it to cut. You really don't have to do this every time. It's just handy, and particularly for this tutorial, we just wanted to show you, what that looks like. So this is almost done, but we can just we can stop it here, and we can cancel. If you click OK, it's actually going to save the simulation in your job, but we don't really need that. Okay, let's go back to the top view. You can click on this thing to go to the top view. And now we are actually ready to process our job. So we're just about done with FreeCAD. The last step is to save our G-code. So we need to make sure the job is selected in the tree view. Just click on it. And now you need to click the post-process icon. It's the second one up here. So we click on that. It's going to give us a preview of all the G code that's being sent. If you want, you could copy and paste from here directly. We're just going to click OK. This is to let you get a view for it of what's going to be saved. And then a save dialog comes up. And the default file name is going to be whatever file name you put in there. And we can just click save, and it's going to be saved. That's it, basically. We are now finished with FreeCAD. So you can close FreeCAD. You could save your project if you like. FreeCAD saves in a format, let's call it the Ahoy. It gives it an FCSTD format extension. And then we're done. Next, let's switch to Candle. So here we are in Candle. You'll notice that I'm already connected. It's showing my X, Y, and Z positions as 100, 133. That's because I have everything parked way back so I could get the material in place. I have already gotten my 0, 0, 0 point is at the left front edge. I don't have to do anything else as long as it knows where my 0, 0, 0 point is. The way that CNC operations go, it goes with whatever your work coordinates are. It's going to start at your work coordinates. So let's go ahead and open up our NC. So we created this Ahoy file. Open. It's going to show you the preview of it here in this window. And that's it. We can just go ahead and send it. So we can click on send, and it's going to go to the device and start engraving. So let's click send. And the spindle spools up. It goes to the starting point, and now it's going to start engraving. You can also see the tool head moving in the preview window as it goes through. We're using fairly fast moving passes, but not cutting a whole lot. And this is also basswood, that little sample chip, so we can go fairly fast. It's very, very soft. And our engraving job is complete. That took 4 minutes and 8 seconds. And that's the end of the tutorial. Have fun. Bye.